Adani's flagship firm, a multi-layered offshore fund structure with minuscule assets.
Anthony, what's up? What are you reading?
Arey, Karthik ji, I'm just trying to understand, make sense of this Hindenburg report, and I think I need a dictionary.
I think you don't need a dictionary. What you need is somebody who can really break this down very simply for you.
Dictionary, which you are. So, बैठ जाइए please.
Okay, let's do
What
this.
I need is you basically. वो बता दो.
Hi, I'm Dictionary. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Let's get started.
Please.
So, Karthik, what is this entire Hindenburg report all about? मतलब बोलना क्या चाह रही है report?
The latest Hindenburg report is primarily about three particular counts. Count number one, that SEBI chairperson Madhabi Puri Buch and her husband were invested in a fund allegedly which was used by Vinod Ambani,
Brother of
Gautam Adani, to invest in the Adani group of companies. That is allegation number one. This fund used to operate out of Mauritius and Bermuda. The second is about a consultancy firm called Agora, which has a base here in India and one more in Singapore. And the fact that Madhabi Puri Buch, even after she became a whole-time member of SEBI, for a period of 2 weeks, continued to be continued to hold stake in that Agora consultancy firm.
What was the issue in that? Why can't
The
she
issue
get-
is if you're holding a public office and if you're holding a position of SEBI chair, then you cannot legally have any other company that you are sitting on the board of or a company that you have a direct stake in. Question number three, which has actually piqued my interest the most, is this whole concept of REITs. Now, what are REITs? REITs are real estate investment trust. Now, India did not really fancy REITs as an investment tool until Madhabi Puri Buch became the chairperson of SEBI. Now, REITs, through which investors participate in the real estate growth story, happens to have only 4 publicly listed companies. Out of those 4, 2 companies, one is called Mindspace and the other is called Nexus, are actually owned by Blackstone. In Blackstone, there's a senior advisor by the name of Dhaval Buch, and Dhaval Buch happens to be the husband of Madhabi Puri Buch, right? The third out of the 4 listed REITs in India is another REIT called Embassy REIT. Embassy REIT also sold its stake to Blackstone. So technically you can say that 3 out of the 4 listed REITs in India happen to be controlled by Blackstone, and Blackstone happens to have a senior advisor called Dhaval Buch, who is the husband of the chairperson of
Fine,
SEBI.
story so far is good.
So
What
these
is
are the three
conflict क्या है
aspects.
इसमें? But this REIT में of her
REIT में
husband
conflict
हाँ,
ये है that REIT started becoming popular on the assurances and the insistence publicly sometimes of Madhabi Puri Buch actually advocating REITs as the future and as another alternative to direct stocks or mutual funds for retail investors and institutional investors to invest in. So the point is, if
It's like saying
REITs
that ये सामान बहुत अच्छा है इसको ले लो and then ultimately but my pati is also
Exactly,
somehow,
but to be fair and to be absolutely clear here, at least journalistically, Anthony, it's important to state that Madhabi Puri Buch has publicly stated that her husband Dhaval Buch, and Dhaval Buch also in the joint statement has said this, had nothing to do with the real estate division of Blackstone.
So that brings me to my next question. Of course, the larger picture, it all boils down to, like, if you boil all of these things, put them in a pot and take the mixture, it's that the fact, hey, how impartial can you be when you're the chairperson of an organization probing Adani, and yet you have apparently investor relations with that particular company, right?
So again, Anthony, I think a little bit of clarification here. Madhabi Puri Buch and Dhaval Buch invested or had stakes in that fund of funds in the year 2015. Well before the Hindenburg research report came out in 2023, Jan 2023. In the year 2017, Madhabi Puri Buch had, and this is again part of her disclosure, had actually transferred all her investment into this particular fund of funds to her husband before she became, a whole-time member at SEBI. So technically, from a corporate governance standpoint, she had done the right thing to not stay invested in a fund before she took on any public office, even as a whole-time member of SEBI. That's number one. Number two, the disclosure which has come from the fund now, and again something which has been corroborated by Madhabi Puri Buch and Dhaval Buch, is the fact that whatever money they had ever invested in that fund was not redirected to any Adani Group stock. So this disclosure has come from the fund of funds as well as from the husband-wife couple, the Buches.
So even if they were, if one were to be, because that report is not out, that even if there were stock manipulations, eventually what they invested,
it was not this money. It was not this money that went there.
I'll come back to now Hindenburg, right? A, to what is Hindenburg? And B, what is their game? Why are they after Adani?
Okay, so I think just take a few steps back and what does Hindenburg do for a living? Hindenburg Research is a short seller. Now, question number 2, what is a short seller? What does a short seller do? So let's assume I'm a short seller, okay, and you, Anthony, happen to own stock in a particular company. Let's say there is company X on which I've got some research available. I know when I release that report, the stock price of X is going to be driven down. That stock price presently is trading at 100 rupees. I come to you and I say, hey, Anthony, lend me one share. Lend. I'm not buying off you. You give me that one share for 100 rupees. I borrow that share from you. I release my report. Right.
And the price plummets.
The price plummets. So now what I've done is, जब मैंने आपसे share लिया था 100 का, मैंने वो share बेच दिया market में. I've got 100 rupees from the market.
बेच दिया, तभी बेच,
I've borrowed it from you, but I've sold it in the market. I've got my 100 rupees from the market. I release my report. The stock nosedives. Now let's say it has come down to 50 rupees. At 50 rupees, I will buy that share back, and I will return your share to you.
Okay.
You have your share, you are happy. I've made 50 rupees as my killing. So that is the job of a short seller. Let's not assume for one moment that Hindenburg Research is an NGO which is working in the larger interest of charity, right? Let's not even assume, let's not even assume for one moment that there is a larger investor group protection or advisory.
Is it legal?
It's legal, of course. Short selling is legal. And to your question on why they've been after Adani, in fact, when the first report was released by Hindenburg on the Adani Group, on the 25th of Jan 2023, when the stock price obviously tanked down, there was about $100 billion rout in the Adani Group of stocks. Hindenburg Research ended up making about $30 million as killing from that entire route. So that is the purpose of existence of Hindenburg Research.
That's the bread and butter.
Absolutely. That's what they do for a living.
So is the timing again suspicious here?
I believe Hindenburg Research felt that the market regulator took too much time, and even despite so much time being invested in the in its releasing its report, and it is yet to release the full report, perhaps alluding to a point that maybe eventually the report comes out in favor of the Adani Group and really dismisses whatever allegations Hindenburg Research had made. So is it trying to discredit the chief of India's market regulator? Seems to be one reason why Hindenburg Research this time is not going after a listed company, which is its core job, but going after the regulator, and no less the chief of the regulator in her personal capacity. So that seems to be one reason behind the timing, which you asked me initially about why Hindenburg Research is really going after Madhabi Puri Buch.
So if there is one song that's been playing on both their minds, irrespective of which side you are, have you heard the song Golmaal Hai Bhai Sab Golmaal?
Yeah.
So for Hindenburg, it's forever Golmaal, and for these guys in SEBI and in India, it's Hindenburg is forever Golmaal. So
I mean, at the end of the day, while songs and situations and memes, etc., can go bonkers describing this whole situation, I think there are some pertinent questions which are being raised right now. Is it time for a very, very free, fair, unbiased investigation into SEBI's own actions, right? Disclosures were made, SEBI is saying all disclosures were made, Madhabi Puri Buch is saying all disclosures were made, right? Is there merit in now at least looking at perhaps the possibility of some vested interest, perhaps not a money trail, but could there have been a favor made to somebody? Was there reason for the investigation to be this slow? I think the larger question about who regulates the regulator, and the fact that there needs to be enough emphasis on, like KYC that banks do, KYR, know your regulator. I think you've got to know your regulator, and you've got to know that there is somebody who's watching the watchdog, and that should come through perhaps with an independent investigation, and perhaps with more disclosures, like I mentioned about now Madhabi Puri Buch at least coming out and listing her list of clients out publicly who she consulted for.
So lots of questions. I think ended with more questions than answers.
I think we'll not find answers very quickly. It'll have to be more questions, and hopefully those at some point.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. Lovely talking to you.